indexes are based on a combination of mathematical and data-driven rules. They are created to measure the performance of a market and enable investors to better understand how that market changes and evolves through time. Markets can be defined in many ways. We can talk about an index representing the equity market of a country, such as the MSCI USA Index, or a region and a sector, such as the MSCI USA Healthcare Index. Sometimes indexes may target a specific type of characteristic, which would mean a distinctive concept like ESG, which stands for Environmental, Social and Governance. Advances in technology have allowed broader access to markets. As these new investors improve their understanding of markets, they increase their familiarity with indexes and how they can help investors make better informed decisions. An investor's first exposure to indexes is often as a way to measure market performance. Even those less involved in markets will have heard in the news how the market is doing overall. If it is up or down, how certain countries or sectors are performing in absolute terms or relative to each other. Behind those measurements, there is always an index. It doesn't matter if you're talking about equities, fixed income, or other investment types. Indexes matter because they play an important role in financial markets. They can help investors better understand the performance of markets, including risk, and can be important components of financial products. Broadly, there are two investment styles, active and passive, which is also referred as index. In active management, an index is primarily used to define the investment universe, which securities would be possible to invest in, and as a measurement of performance. The selection and weighting of securities will be determined by the investment manager's process and philosophy. In a passive style of investment, the goal is to deliver the performance of the market, or exposure, as opposed to trying to outperform. As such, the index will be used to inform the selection and weighting of securities by an investment manager. How the index changes and evolves through time will more likely influence how the portfolio will look. Index rules and methodologies will vary by index provider, but will have some common steps, including defining what type of securities will be eligible for inclusion, deciding how these securities will be represented in the index, and determining any classification frameworks that will be used to help investors understand the composition and performance of the indexes. To create indexes that represent a given market or exposure, index providers need rules that are systematic, but also dynamic enough to keep pace with changing markets. These rules tend to be publicly available and set out how the indexes are created and maintained over time. In equity markets, a common way to construct an index is to use the value of a company's shares through market capitalization. A company's market capitalization, which is calculated by multiplying the number of shares by the share price, allows investors to assess the company's size based on its value. The higher the value, the bigger the company. This means that when constructing a market cap weighted index, companies with a larger market capitalization will have a greater weight. Carrying over the same idea to fixed income, a bond index can be constructed by considering the size or value of the corporate bond. The larger the debt, the more weight an issue will have in the index. While there are some similarities between equity and fixed income indexes, there are also many differences. Companies may continually issue new debt, therefore there may be more bonds associated with a company than share types. Also, equities give shareholders ownership of a company for as long as that company exists, while corporate bonds usually have a fixed lifespan. Finally, while share prices are quoted on exchanges and are visible and accessible to investors, corporate bonds often are over-the-counter securities, meaning prices are agreed upon through the interaction of two counterparties, a buyer and a seller, so the settled price may not be easily visible to the outside world. Although indexes are representations of markets or opportunity sets, you cannot invest in an index. Investment vehicles such as mutual funds are created and managed by an investment manager, may track or replicate an index in whole or in part. The choice of an index by an investment manager may inform the composition of their fund, but the decision to buy or sell securities will lay solely with the investment manager, not the index provider.